This is it. This is the end of me and Katie. I've had her for 2.5 weeks. Loved every second of it. I've got to take her all the way back up to the Midlands today to give her back and get my bike back because I left my bike up there. I'm actually very sad about letting her go. I'm really sad about it today, actually. I'm sadder than I thought I would be. I've actually become quite attached to little Katie. I had my misgivings at first. She was a bit slower than my bike, obviously. So my expectations when I first picked her up were quite low, I'd say. They were quite low, but she has surprised me. She surprised me a lot. Squidgy, squidgy. Time to go, take you back, Katie. I must say, she has actually started first time every time. There have been a few moments where I've thought she's going to cut out, because I have heard that's been a problem with these bikes. She's also a little bit rattly at really slow speed. Like, if you go into first, you hear that? That's a bit of a rattle going on. But that's only in first gear when you're going at like 5,000 revs. I've got my trusty paper sat-nav in front of me. Look at that, it's paper sat-nav. Don't worry, KTM, it doesn't have any postcodes on it. I'm not giving away your secret location. Oh yes. Woohoo! So I guess we better get the boring bits over with first. So the miles per gallon that I've had out of her, I did a little test, and from 6 litres, I got 96 miles. So I'm not going to work that out in my head right now. I'll put that on the screen now. So that's the miles per gallon that I've got on this bike. Also, I've ridden this bike on the motorway, and she does cruise along very, very nicely at 70 and above. I've not really noticed any difference between how I feel on this bike on the motorway and how I feel on mine, apart from this bike is a bit more comfortable than my bike on the motorway, if I'm completely honest. They've put the KTM Power Part seat on it for me. They've also put on this bike adjustable levers, which don't come as standard. I think that the main thing that I have loved about this bike is probably the engine and the comfort. I think those are the two main things that I really like. The engine is amazing. I took it on track. You can rag the shit out of it. It actually revs really high for a single. See, she's revving now to 8. This is 8,000. 9. 10. There we go. 10,000. The bike doesn't have as good brakes as my bike, but I've got used to that. I know where the limits are now. I've got used to that. When I first started riding it, it felt a little bit dangerous because I was so used to my really, really sharp brakes. But now I've got used to using these brakes. I think they're actually fine for the bike. So this engine has got probably about the same amount of power as Spicy's bike. It's got the similar sort of engine size, really. Obviously it's a completely different shape of bike, completely different riding position, but I did find that when I was riding behind him that we used the gears the same way. Is that because it's a single, and I don't know, maybe the gears are very similar, I don't know. So we were like unison gearing it up. It was great fun. Synchronized gear changes there. The gearbox, I have had some fuckery with the gearbox actually. It's not very often. It really isn't very often. It's not like every ride you'll go out and you'll be like, oh, the fucking gearbox. Every now and again though, it does sort of go in between a gear and then sort of go in the gear and then pop out of the gear. So maybe it's just that I need to move this gear lever down as well. Or up, I don't know. Is it when I'm going up? No, I think it's when I'm going up. So I probably need to move the gear lever down so I get more of a plop on my foot. When I go plop, up, and it goes up. You can get a really positive downshift like that. Ooh, that felt good. Oh, that felt nice. Also, every now and again, when you go to put the bike in neutral, it doesn't really like it. And it will say, no, I'm not going into neutral. Thank you, mate. I know, everyone is flashing me. Yes. I know I look like I'm about to speed off, but I'm not gonna. Yeah, so it looks like it's going to go into neutral, and then it sort of reads 0. You don't get the neutral light come on, and then when you put the side stand down, it does cut out. Like it hasn't selected neutral properly. So yeah, there has been a few gearbox fuckery moments, but it hasn't really affected my enjoyment of the bike. Like, it's only happened a couple of times. Blind corner. What is this thing? What is it? Is it a big ladder? Nothing coming. Cheers, mate. These mirrors are awesome. Like, they're so wide, you can see yourself in them at the same time as everything behind you. So if you're really vain and you really want to see what your waist looks like while you're sitting on your bike, then yeah, go for it. It's yeah, at the moment I can see behind me, I can see my arm, I can see all the way over to the other side of my body. I can see the whole of my body while I'm sitting on this bike. Like, literally the whole of me. It's really good for vain people. Check yourself out while you're going along. See how cool you look. So yeah, the mirrors are nice and wide, but they don't stick out that much. Like, the handlebars are wider than the mirrors. I don't know whether that's because it's got like massive bar end things on it, or whether it's meant to be like that. Who knows? I haven't noticed any trouble filtering. It's such a slim bike. Really, really good in town, apart from the rattliness. But that does make it a bit louder. So this fuel tank is just like 10 litres, I think, so I have been filling up a lot more than I would normally on my bike. I think my bike's like, what, 16 litres? But it uses more fuel, so it's not that much more often. Like, I've been going about 100 miles on this, then filling up. On mine I'd go 120. What number am I? I always fucking forget for. I've got some nuts. So I think that literally everything that I just overtook to get here has now just overtaken me. So the bike does have a temperature gauge. It doesn't give actual figures. It does actually run quite hot a lot of the time. And I don't know whether that's just because I'm ragging it around. But the fan does come on quite a lot. The fan comes on more than my bike. And it does feel a bit warmer. I guess maybe that's because there's less between you and the engine on this bike than on mine. But yeah, it does get quite warm, which sometimes has been a bit of a pain, but I am quite a cold person naturally, so actually it's been quite nice. Damn. Stuck behind the tractor again. I love the orange wheels. I gave her a little clean earlier today because I wanted to give her back nice and shiny. I like shiny bikes. She had got a little bit dirty while I was using her. There had been a few times where I'd ridden her in the rain, so I thought, why not give her a little bit of a clean, make her all shiny, make her feel all loved before she goes back. This poor bike has been passed around from person to person. That's like the only life she's known. She's never known like proper ownership of being cleaned and loved, and I thought I ought to give her a little bit of that before she goes back. I am quite attached to her actually. One of the other highlights of the bike is the lights. The lights at night time are so good. They're much better than my Honda lights. I'll readily admit that. You can see so much when they're on. People can see you as well. Like, I put these lights, the main beams, on when I filter, and on this bike everyone moves out the way. Like, it's like a sea of people just going to the sides. They just all move. Well, a lot of them don't, but they're the stupid ones that just never look in their mirrors. Yeah, I think the lights on this bike are much better than the lights on my bike. This bike also has like an amazing feature that I've not seen on any other bike that I've ridden, but then again I've not ridden that many in the dark yet. But there's a little light in here in the switchgear thing. I don't know what you call this. Switchgear? Switches box? Who knows? But there's a little light in there, so at night time you can see where all the switches are, which is great. When I first got my bike, I rode it in the dark and I accidentally turned on the hazard lights and then I couldn't turn them off because I didn't know where the button was and what I'd pressed or whatever. So yeah, really, really good little feature actually. I don't know which bike I find more fun either. Like, I was trying to think of this the other day. For giggles, which bike have I had more giggles on? Like in a 2-week period, like a track day, long journeys. My bike's horrible on long journeys. On track it just sort of sails around. This one is so comfortable on long journeys, and on track I had a ball. So those two things are going for this bike. I do though think that my bike is a little bit more smoother for filtering on, so day to day, I don't know. It's all swings and roundabouts, isn't it? It's like comparing eggs with chickens, potatoes with bananas. I should have gone round a few cars then. But I'm sort of thinking about which bike I find more fun, and I'm not sure of the answer to that one. So this bike on little twisty roads does feel really fun, but I think the suspension does let it down just that little bit. Like, you can't really tell how much grip you've got. The tyres are really good, but you can't tell how much grip they've got because you're bouncing around. Like on the track day, on the corners, I felt like it took a lot of balls to like throw her around because I didn't know how much grip I had, and it was bouncing around a lot. And that sort of has made me more confident now to start chucking my bike around a little bit more, because on that one I know how much grip I've got, although it is a little bit more hard work because it's a little bit heavier than this. I like the way this bike sounds, but she could be made louder. She is really quiet, though that is in comparison to Phil Tonic's bike, which is like mega loud, and Spicy's bike, which is also mega loud. Like, she does sound good. She's got a nice note to her. I quite like the sound of the little single-cylinder engine now. The sort of little poppy hoppy, buzzy, lovely little noises she makes. I like it. I do like it. That's going to be weird getting back on my bike with the smooth, the zzz, the zizzing, and the screaming. So they have put a different exhaust on this bike. They put an Aquapovic slip-on on it. You can't take the baffle out because they've done something funny to the little baffle screw. I did try. I'm going to admit that we did try and take the baffle out. It didn't work because they don't let you. Maybe that's just because it's a press bike and they know that people will try and take the baffle out and then lose it. I wouldn't have lost it. I would have put it back in. But they don't let you do it. It's like impossible. They've sort of screwed the inside of the screw out or something. I don't know what they've done. They've made it impossible to do anyway. Because the bike is so slim, the fairings are a lot slimmer, and you do feel a little bit more of the wind than on my CBR 600RR. But I think it's probably about as similar to like my CBR 600F, because those fairings were slimmer as well. So again, I'm trying to compare it to my bike, which has got really bloody good fairings on it. The handling, it does feel so good. This bike is just such chuck-aboutable. It's just amazing. Like, you can just do so much stuff on it on the little twisty roads. It's so much fun, and I really wish this fucking car wasn't in front of me right now. Let's try and get around it. I guess one of the advantage for having slightly softer brakes for all the new riders out there that will be riding this bike, because there will be a lot of new riders riding it, if you get something just a little bit wrong and you need to brake, you're not going to shit your pants and go over the front when you do that. What is that on the front of that thing? Cool, his mirror's broken, isn't it? It's more broken than mine. I did find this bike really vibrating when I first got on it, and now I think I've got used to that. I don't even notice them anymore. Sometimes I do notice a few vibrations through the handlebars, but it's not that much. Like, it's never actually been a problem. It's been fun. It's never actually been a problem. So I've probably been riding for about like an hour now, I think, possibly. And on my bike, my legs would be like, we've got to stop, we've got to stretch, we've got to move. And I'm so comfortable right now, I could carry on for another hour in complete comfort. The position that you sit in on this bike is quite a sporty position, but it's not as sporty as the CBR 600RR. However, it is more sporty than the Ninja 300, because I sat on one of them, and that's a very sat-up bike. You're very upright on that. It's not really a sporty position at all. This bike is sort of an in-between. It's sort of sat up enough that it's really steady and you can chuck it about, but it's focused enough that you can tuck in and do all the nice sporty stuff on a track without looking ridiculous. Not that the 300 looks ridiculous, it doesn't look ridiculous. My friend Little G has got a Ninja 300 and she looks so good on that bike on track. What I mean is, you can have a sporty bike with an in-between position, feel comfortable, and this just proves that. This is and bigger people fit on it too. Spicy sat on it. He's a tall guy. He's a very tall guy. And he's sort of fitted on the bike. I know that Baron's ridden the 125 version, hasn't he? which is a very similar position. I think it's like practically the same position, because I think they use the same frame and stuff for this bike. Yeah, and he fitted on it, so yeah, the seat is quite high, I think, for a little bike. Like the Ninja 300, the seat is a lot lower, it seems. From when I sat on it, that's what it felt like anyway. Like on this, I can flat foot with my knees bent a little bit, and on that one I can flat foot with my knees bent quite a bit. The handlebars on that bike are also a lot higher up than this one. To be honest, I quite like bikes that have lower down handlebars. I've got a short body, long arms and long legs, so if I have a bike that's got handlebars that are like quite low down, that suits my body shape better than a bike that's more city-uppy. Because on a bike that's city-uppy, my arms are like little dinosaur T-Rex arms, like really squished, and that hurts. That's what I found out on the adventure bike that I rode. So this bike costs around £5,000 new, and it is built to a budget. And most of the time, you don't notice that at all. It's only when you get off the bike and you look at a few things and you feel a few things without your gloves on. The grips on this bike do feel a little bit cheap. Again, something that's easy changeable though. Only cost a few quid to get some nice grips on it. Especially if you're going to put heated grips on it, which I put on all my bikes. So if I owned this, that would be gone anyway. If this was my bike, who cares about the grips, because they'd be in the bin. Or maybe not in the bin, they'd be in the bucket of bike stuff. So like some of the bodywork, like this screen here, sort of plastic, does go a little bit yellowy, doesn't it? So we'll see what they look like in a few years' time. Apart from that, the bike feels like a proper solid little bike. You wouldn't know that this bike costs £5,000 from looking at it. It does look really good. I was like proper inspecting the wheels as well when I was washing her earlier today. The paint job on the wheels is so good. I really want orange wheels on one of my bikes in the future. You never know. I love orange. Can't help myself. Does that have something to do with Marc Marquez? Maybe. Who knows? I like his orange wheels. I do feel like this little bike has proper won me over though. I would highly recommend her to anyone that's considering getting a smaller CC bike. For anyone that's on an A2 licence, I would love to own one. Like if I was restricted, this would be something that I would seriously consider. I haven't ridden any of the other A2 restricted ones yet, or A2 licence compatibles, but I will and I'll compare her to them when I ride them. This is quite a high benchmark actually, I feel, for little bikes to go up against. This is going to take some beating, I think. It's been such a good bike, Katie. Such a good bike. It's a little challenge for you. Any other manufacturers out there want to pit their bike against this one? Go for it. I think it's going to be quite hard to beat. My bike feels so odd now. Oh god. I feel like a little monkey perched on a bench on my bike now. I keep blipping too much because the throttle's completely different. Fuck's sake. It feels so big in between my thighs. I'm doing 20 miles an hour in first gear again. Woo! Oh, it's now I realise what a crampy, uncomfortable position my bike is. Oh, Katie, you've ruined me. You ruined me. My bike feels massive, uncomfortable, cramped, hard seat, but so smooth. So smooth. So damn smooth. Go on, Katie, give me a smile. You'll be going to someone else in a week, I feel. Will they look after you as much as I have? Love you as much as I have? Who knows? Katie, who knows?